Okay, so let's talk about sidereal and tropical astrologies. Basically, the Western world has followed more of a modern astrology take. Astrology has actually been around for a very, very long time. There's a lot of text on it. If you didn't know, yes, astrology has been around the block, okay? Usually, if you go to a website and type in your stuff to get your birth chart, there is a toggle, and it is usually on tropical astrology because a lot of us learned about our birth charts and sun signs and everything through tropical astrology. And tropical astrology can also be divided into the modern astrology route or the traditional astrology route. On the other hand, we've got an astrology system that has been around way longer than modern astrology has, and that is the sidereal system. The sidereal system is used more by the eastern side of the world. If you want to dive into it more, go back to any astrology site that you've been on that you put in your information for, the three magical things: your birth time, your birth date, and your location where you were born, and you will most likely see beside tropical an option for sidereal. And if you've never wondered about this before, I invite you to go and try sidereal placements and see what your placements are, because I've heard that a lot of people really recognize their sidereal placements over their tropical placements. Let me make this clear for you. So, in tropical astrology, I am a Pisces sun, an Aries moon, etc., right? However, when I go into sidereal astrology, right, I am now an Aquarius sun with a Pisces moon, etc. You can see how this makes a lot of difference, especially meme-wise, but in general, tropical and sidereal systems are both calculated in different ways. That's why you come out with different placements. If you want to know more about sidereal placements, sidereal traits, if the entire system is different, I invite you to do some research because I love research. But the search for astrology knowledge can be personal, and I always invite people to take a personal approach with things that they personally want done. So make sure you go check that out if you haven't already, and if you don't know about the sidereal system yet, and I'm the first one to teach you, you're welcome. But also, did you hear about this next thing I have coming up? Let's talk about synastry, shall we? Synastry, otherwise known as relationship astrology, is basically that you take your birth chart and the birth chart of the person that you want to see your synastry with, which is basically just contacts to each other's planets to see how well y'all get along, really. This can definitely be done, and you can do it in overlay mode. You can combine them as well, and I don't mean a composite chart, which is where you take both of your signs and there's calculations for it and it produces an entirely new chart. I'm saying combine as in some astrology apps let you place one in the outer circle and one in the inner circle. And that way you can see the real contacts between the planets. By the way, I still only use whole sign houses, so if you're looking at your chart and it's in Placidus, which some of them default automatically to Placidus, I think most of them default automatically to Placidus, you can definitely change that to whole signs and see where both of your houses line up. Once again, you must have the three magical things: your birth time and date, their birth time and date, and access to a free astrology site that lets you do synastry, so you can do that. But it is a really great practice, and I don't know if you knew it was out there, but it is. And I'm here to tell you that you should maybe use it, maybe not obsess over it, maybe talk to your person instead of just doing synastry with people and thinking that's how it's gonna go. Because remember, your chart is still living. You have a snapshot of when you were born, which is your natal birth chart, and then it moves and interacts with the transits that go through it, but the transits include planets, they include asteroids and other things. So you really want to get the best sample of compatibility, which is what a Synastry chart basically is. You want to go and talk to that person, go and interact with them, and then later when you look at your charts in Synastry, if you do happen to get along really well or you don't happen to get along really well, then you'll be able to determine, okay, well, maybe what was happening here between the both of us. And another really great thing about Synastry charts is, I believe in some astrology apps, they may also let you do transits, so you can see transits to both of your charts at the same time while seeing your compatibility. So that might be helpful for anyone who wants to dig in. But yes, Synastry charts are where it's at. So let's talk about astrology maps. So there's this really cool thing called AstroCartograohy, and if you didn't know about it, it's basically a map where the sun was rising and setting based on your chart, right? It sounds really weird when I describe it, but if you were to go to a website that has AstroCartograohy, put in your birth time, your birth date, and the place that you were born, it will show you, based on the lines that are already in your chart, where you'll be moving closer to. So by now, by this video, you should already know that your birth chart has different placements, which are basically planets. And these planets move based on your location. So when you pull up your AstroCartograohy map, which I will show you, it will show you based on your chart and where certain lines are in your chart, such as your Mars line or your Venus line or your midheaven line, which the midheaven, by the way, is a calculated point. It isn't a planet, and that was a test to see how far you are into astrology. No, I'm joking. But basically, you'll see a big map with all of these lines stretched over it. If you are in a location right now, I suggest that you take a look at the map and see if you are intersecting any lines in your birth chart that could be major. So this includes your sun line, your moon line, your Saturn line. You want to, of course, stick maybe to the benefics if you wanted to get a little bit more of energy and burst out of life. If you go to the malefics, it's not horrible, it just brings up different challenges for you instead of making it a little bit easier. But some of us need that path, right? If you were a person who maybe needed some personal transformation, you might unconsciously move towards your Pluto line. And I say Pluto specifically because it is a planet in modern astrology that is more associated with things like transformation. But also, for another example, if you wanted to feel more vibrant, more alive, maybe that you're able to naturally live off your own energy, especially during seasonal affective disorder, sad for all of the rest of us, you might want to move more towards your sun line, potentially your Venus line if you want to be adored, or maybe even your Mars line if you're thinking about maybe getting into some very active sports or you need to get stronger, things like that. Those are basically lines where you could get a little bit closer to those points in your own chart, and they may naturally affect you more in those ways, which is awesome. So if you do plan to actually consider moving or even just go on a vacation somewhere, I invite you to please look up your AstroCartograohy chart and see where you're going and see how it might affect you. Or if you wanted to test it, you could always go on your vacation or move to that place, spend a little bit of time there, of course, and whenever you come back or give yourself a specified amount of time, then you can really go through whether or not you felt anything different by being there. I think naturally all of us are gonna come out with feeling a little bit different once we move or once we go on vacation. You're bound to feel like a little bit of energy, especially with a vacation, because you're planning to go to the place, right? You're not gonna pick a place you don't wanna go to for a vacation, at least I hope not. But yeah, I invite you to try it. AstroCartograohy is really cool. Here's another one. Using planetary hours to mark your time. So planetary hours are a very cool new thing that I actually recently just got into. If you have certain apps, you can actually get the planetary hours called out to you, which is one of the best worst things to ever happen to me. But the way it works is this. So the planets that are in your birth chart, the traditional planets less than the more modern ones, but do as you will, those planets actually do divide up the day into what are known as planetary hours. And planetary hours exist on both a world scale for all of us and also an individual scale based on your chart. And these hours basically optimize that planet's influence on you. So if you really think about it, if you were to maybe do a workout during an hour that is Mars filled, you would power through that, okay? Or in contrast, if you were to maybe feel like winding down, you would probably do that during moon hour. And that would help you a lot in not getting distracted, staying on task, making sure that you do your self-care. But these are some of the really cool things you can do with planetary hours. I find personally, now that I've started using them, because they get announced to me by my phone, I find that Mercury hours are actually really great hours for working through tough problems, and Saturn hours are really great for getting work done. If you really want to know, I've actually been recording the amount of great ideas that I get, and most of them have been happening during my personal Jupiter hours, so that's just something to think about. But in general, using planetary hours is like a cool way to schedule your day if you really wanted to take it to that level. I personally do not schedule my day by the planetary hours because they are planetary hours and they are subject to I believe certain calculations. So some planetary hours only last maybe 50 minutes while others could last an hour and a half. And that for me is a little bit too chaotic in planning my day. But I do find that after work, if it does happen to be a Jupiter hour, a moon hour, or a Saturn hour, and I do have work that falls in those spectrums, I'm most likely to do the work that associates with that planet during that planet's planetary hour, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's another really cool thing that you may not have known before, but I invite you to try it out. Okay, so let's talk a really cool other version of a chart I'm not sure you've tried, and it's called the Draconic Chart. So, by the way, if I'm not pronouncing this right, this is because I want to say Draconic instead of Draconic. But I'm pretty sure it's Draconic, but it might not be. Correct me in the comments below. But for Draconic charts, I have found them to be very interesting. Even though Draconic charts are this really cool, I don't find myself using them as much just because I'm not particularly well versed on how to. I wanted to bring this up as a very interesting thing that you can do because honestly, I was just playing around on Astrodienist and I found a few cool things. If you personally have gone ahead and tried Draconic charts and you have a full rundown of how they can be easily applied for anyone who wants to look into how that works, please leave a comment down below. I will watch your video, okay? If you would like to follow me, by the way, my astrology learning and tarot Twitter account is at Astrology Prep, and my my Twitter account for this specific YouTube channel. It's actually at ShansWorld. So if you wanted to learn more about anything that I've mentioned, make sure you go into that description box and you see all the goodies and information I've left for you if you don't want to do it yourself. And also make sure that you subscribe, that you like this video, and that you come back. Please visit me often. I usually upload every 2 weeks, so if you don't see me, comment. I will definitely get back to you.